Hi everyone, it's Lisa, and I wanted to give a special shout out to my friend Jamie Leclerc. Dr. Leclerc is a former classmate who's now a professor of health sciences at Wilfrid Laurier University in Brantford in Ontario. So hi Jamie. I remember going over to his house a long time ago to have tourtière, which is a kind of a French Canadian meat pie. And I know in the years since then, Jamie's done a lot of vegan cooking. So I wanted to kind of veganize a recipe here and just see how it turned out. So I'm just going to open up the slides here. So here's what the finished pie looked like, this tourtière. And it's based on this French Canadian holiday dish. It's not really authentic or traditional because it's using different ingredients, but the original recipe that I used was one that they made in Quebec in the old days. And here's a picture from Krieghoff back in the mid 1800s of the painting of a French Canadian farmer's house in Quebec. And so this is a kind of meal that they would have around the holiday season, especially, and a very nice hearty meat pie. And certainly something nice to look forward to if you had a really terrible holiday, like this poor kid in the Carrier hockey sweater story who received a leaf sweater. And in the story, it was Monsieur Eaton who sent him the wrong sweater from Toronto. Oh, I guess these days it would be Monsieur Amazon because Eaton's is no more. Anyway, this is something that you can really enjoy over the holidays, unlike the wrong kind of hockey sweater. So if you're making this using a pre-made pie shell, which I have done in the past, from the grocery store, you can skip over the next part because I'm just doing the pastry. Now this is enough for the top and bottom crusts of a pastry using the standard 9-inch pie pan shape. And I have to admit that I haven't really had good luck with pie crust in the past, but I found a couple of recipes that seem to work for me. So if I can pull it off, probably other people can as well. So this recipe calls for a half cup plus 3 tablespoons on top of that of chilled butter or other kind of shortening. What I've been using is this melt shortening here, which is made from various kinds of vegetable oils. And I picked milk because some of the other types that are on the market, they're using a lot of palm oil, and I don't know where the palm oil is coming from, and I'm kind of concerned about that. I'll mention why very shortly. You'll need also 2 cups of all-purpose flour and a half teaspoon of salt. Fairly simple. Now, the reason I'm worried about palm oil is a lot of it comes from the tropics, from plantations that are actually causing some damage to the environment because people had to cut down the rainforest to plant these palm trees, as you can see in the photo here. So you've got a little scrap of rainforest that's just surrounded by miles and miles of this monoculture palm oil crop. And so it's destroyed a lot of ecosystems because there's nothing there for the animals to eat. And unfortunately, they're also prone to wildfires. And so there have been some really devastating fires in especially Southeast Asia in recent years. So most of the palm oil in the world is being produced in Southeast Asia, but it's also spreading into places like South America. Anywhere that the climate is warm and tropical, this tree will go very well. And it's a very efficient producer of oil, so it's very popular to use in processed foods. So some of the environmental groups have tried to come up with a campaign to encourage the use of palm oil that's produced more sustainably. So it's really good to look at the labels when you're shopping for confections like candy as well, because chocolate apparently uses some of this palm oil too. And you can look and see if they've got seals that show that they're fair trade certified, or in this case, rainforest certified. And they're hoping that by doing this, they can encourage the industry to be more sustainable. And that way they won't have to trade off saving the forest for things like jobs. And this way, if you have more sustainable types of production, that it'll also address issues like child labor, for example, and carbon emissions. Anyway, so what we do here with the ingredients, once you've got everything together, is you mix the salt into the flour fairly well, and then work the butter in, or the shortening, using your fingers. This is the fastest way to do it, I found. It's just to reach in with your fingers and just rub the shortening into the flour until the lumps are gone. And you end up with this kind of a crumbly looking mixture like this. And the next thing to do is to add in the water to make this pie dough. So what you do is you kind of scoop out this depression in the middle of the pile of mixture, and you gradually pour in 5 or 6 tablespoons of cold water. And so you've got this kind of little pool of water sitting in this well in the middle of the mixture. So what you do with that is you put your finger in again and you stir the water with a spiral motion. You're going to start at the middle in the pool of water, and then you're going to kind of mix it into the edges, just working outward like that. When you're finished with that, you'll end up with this soft dough. And the dough should be enough to form a ball, in terms of the texture. It should stick to itself enough to form that ball, but not stick to your fingers. It shouldn't be too messy. If it is getting kind of messy and it's on your fingers, just work in a bit more flour, and that should help it in terms of making it a little bit more cohesive. So you can kind of adjust the balance of flour and water, because you may have to add in more water if it turns out that it's too dry. So you just kind of adjust the balance until it's kind of that middle of the road texture, and then you've got this kind of ball of dough that you can use. So once you finish that, once the dough's adjusted to your satisfaction, you cover the dough with a damp cloth and just let it sit in the fridge, just rest for a couple of hours. If you're going to be leaving it in there longer, like overnight, it's good to wrap it up in a plastic bag or a Ziploc, or put it in a sealed container. And if it does dry out, no need to worry, just sprinkle on a bit of water and kind of knead it into the dough until it's more flexible. No big problem at that stage. And just kind of use the water to make it a bit smoother if you find that the surface got kind of dried out while you were waiting. Okay, now the filling. So what you'll need is a couple of those Beyond Beef burger patties, and they often have them in the freezer section now, in many stores. It actually freezes really well. I haven't really noticed any major difference in taste between the frozen and the unfrozen types of Beyond Burger. And so you need a couple of these patties and thawed out, and also vegetables. I find that the vegetables help. You can stretch out the Beyond Beef this way. If you've got lots of Beyond Beef still, I think it's also nice to have the vegetables in there just for variety. So what I've been doing is using some finely chopped sweet onion and a bit of powdered garlic, or minced fresh garlic if I can get it. And the vegetables, the other vegetables would be, you can use finely chopped celery for this, but I know Jamie's not big on celery, so I'm sure that things like carrots or chayote squash would work just as well in this situation, whatever's available and whatever people like. And the seasonings, again, you can experiment and see what you enjoy most. I mean, I've been using fresh parsley, or dried if I can't get fresh, and ground black pepper is also good. I've also added in thyme and sun-dried tomato flakes. So here's what I've been doing. I've been chopping up the celery fairly small, and adding in some of this Italian herb mixture that has thyme and oregano in it. And in the upper corner, you can see this sort of it's a quarter cup of shredded smoked, well, let's see, not the smoke this time. I've been using just this plain sun-dried tomatoes. So that's what I've been using, and it seems to work really well for flavoring. So to get started, you kind of saute the onion and the garlic in a skillet in a bit of olive oil till it starts to go a bit translucent. Now, because you're putting it in the oven, you could probably get away with putting it all in raw, but I like to just mix it together and kind of half cook it to get it on its way. And I think that kind of helps, because that way the middle of the pie won't be underdone. So you got the onion, and you've kind of partly cooked the onion, then you add the Beyond Meat patties, and you may have to break them up a bit with the wooden spoon or the spatula, and just kind of get them all kind of mixed in there. And then you can add the vegetables and the seasonings, and here they are. They're all kind of starting to look a little bit cooked here in terms of the Beyond Beef, and then cook it for a few more minutes like that. And then it's time to preheat the oven to 375 Fahrenheit, and you can start working dough. So while you're waiting for the oven to heat up, you can roll the dough out to make the pie crust. You can, in the meantime, you can just turn off the heat on the vegetable mixture. And so you've got the. What I did was I used a bit more than half of the pie crust to make that first circle there, because it's going to have to be a bit bigger because it's the bottom part of the shell. So you just put it into the pie pan, and then you start to put in the filling, like so. And then you can roll out the top crust and put it onto the pie. And you'll need to seal it around the edges and kind of pinch them and kind of wrinkle it up a little bit to make sure you've got a good fit there. And then the last thing you can do is to push a fork through the crust in a few places, just to create holes for the steam to escape. I also kind of did this version of a fleur-de-lis as decoration on the top of the pie, but it didn't really turn out very well. But still, it was kind of fun to try that. Anyway, so then you bake it, and 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, by the time you're getting towards the end of this, it should be turning a light brown on top when the pie is almost done. It won't be very dark, but you can just kind of look at it and poke it a bit and see if it's getting towards that done stage. And that's it. And I was really happy with how it turned out. I cut into the pie and it was done, and it actually tasted really good. I was pretty amazed. And well, here's just one of the pieces here. It goes really well, I found, with Dijon mustard, or in this case, Polish horseradish mustard, which is available at the Mediterranean deli down the street from me. But yeah, I was really amazed that it was quite a good pie. Anyway, so hope you have a good day. Thanks very much.